In case you couldn't tell, the question for this week follows along with the last question that I wrote in talking about a custom category layout. But this question specifically deals with the contents of the page layout XML file. Now, if you're anything like me, you appreciate the different abilities that Magento provides as far as customizing or creating new layouts. But it can also be easy sometimes to get a little hung up on some of the nomenclature and the different rules that surround that. And so that's what initiated this question. It was something that I actually didn't realize at first was necessary, but ended up finding out later on that it was, in fact, very necessary. So let's take a look at the question. You are making some layout updates in a custom layout. After creating Otter category view front-end page layout custom-otter-category.xml, you add the following code inside the layout tag. And so we see the code exemplified. And so after fleshing the cache and applying the custom layout to a category, you navigate to the category on the front end and are greeted by a completely blank white screen. So here's the question. What needs to be done to ensure that the page displays as you intended? Now, before I get into taking a look at the answers, I wanted to give a quick example of how the page layout is actually designed or set up. Let's take a look at that. So we have the custom layout defined here in layouts.xml. We can see from the path that that's in the view front end directory. And so basically we just have simply a layout ID specifying the ID obviously of that custom layout with the label here, and that layout ID right here correlates directly to the name of the layout file that's in the view front end page underscore layout directory. And obviously inside of that we've got our example layout directives there. And so the question being, with this code right here, it's leading to a blank white screen. What needs to be done to resolve it? Let's take a look at the possible answers. So A, the layout directive needs to be wrapped in a body tag. B, an update handle with the layout ID directive needs to be added. Or C, there is a typo in the block name and or the template path that's breaking the custom layout and must be fixed. So let's review the different options that we have here, starting with option A. Now, depending on how we have the rest of the file set up and if we've configured the layout correctly, leaving out a wrapper tag like the body tag referenced in that option could throw an error, or the directives could just be ignored. But it's not going to completely crash the page. But also specifically in this case, we have the reference container. If we look at that question, we have the reference container element that wraps those reference block tags that we're actually utilizing to do what we need with that layout. And so that being the case, if we take a look at the page layout XSD file, we actually see that the reference container tag can be used inside the layout tags. That's the only directive we need. We don't need a wrapper tag like a body like we do in some of the other layout files. So that being the case, this would be an incorrect option because we have everything we need here to make that layout directive work properly. So taking a look at option B, talking about adding an update handle. Now Magento's layout is inheritance based, so this would make sense. If we don't have an update handle directive applied, we could have issues with that chain of command, so to speak, being able to go up to the parent layout, since really there's not going to be a parent layout defined. The only layout that's going to be applied to that category is that one little directive that you have there in that file example. Magento's not going to know what else to apply, and it's going to be a pretty rough looking page. But before we mark that as the correct answer, let's take a quick look at option C, which as a reminder was just a reference to maybe a typo in the block name or an incorrect path for the template or a typo in that as well. And in that scenario, a scenario where you've got a typo in the block name or a problem with the template path, you're either going to get an error or it's going to be ignored completely. The layout directive will be. And obviously that is not going to lead to a completely blank white page like we have in this scenario. So we're also going to mark option C as incorrect, which leaves us with option B. We're defining one tiny layout update, and so it would make perfect sense for the page to pretty much completely break. It's not going to show anything because Magento doesn't have a clue how to display the different templates and all of the other data that's supposed to be displaying on that category page because there's nothing calling it. We've broken the chain of command. We've broken that link between a child layout and the parent layout. There's no parent layout defined, honestly. And so to get this resolved, we would need to add an update handle and specify a parent layout, which was the scenario that I faced. I had initially forgotten to add an update handle in there, and that was the problem. Completely blank white page, went back, got the update handle added, and everything started working, and I was able to move on in the process of getting that custom layout defined. And so just to give a quick example of that, here's the code that ended up fixing the problem that I was facing. All that needed to be done was add in this update handle right here. I wanted the category full width layout to be the parent, and that resolved all of the issues. Everything started working, and again, I was able to continue on with making the different layout updates that the client had requested. Now before I close, I'd like to recommend that you head over to SwiftOtter.com. There's a lot of resources available there, stuff that can help you grow as a developer, maybe answer some questions that you didn't even know you had. Thanks for watching.